Don't want to alarm anybody, but I got a great headline here. Airplanes face a growing risk of being hit by uncontrolled incoming rockets.
Rockets?
Yeah, you love to hear that.
Like a rocket?
Love to hear it. You could be on your trip to Portland, just flying through the sky, and all of a sudden, an errant rocket falls out of the sky, and boom, you're done for. That's something nice to think about. A nice downer to start the day. But it is something we should be aware of. It is true. We're talking actual rockets could be falling from the sky, hitting your airplane.
I don't even know what that means.
Well, what goes up must come down, right?
I guess so.
And so we've had a lot more rocket launches going on in the past several years. Obviously, the high profile like SpaceX stuff, Jeffrey Bezos's Blue Origin, all that. Now, those are very controlled. They're kind of few and far between. And sometimes rocket launches are meant to. It's something that's launched up and doesn't come back down, right? It goes into orbit. But what we also have is particularly in China, they will launch rockets. They have rockets that they launch up that will be in the sky for some period of time, and then they fall back down. And if it's and it's not always so predictable where they're going to land. And as more and more rocket launches are happening, more and more rockets are falling out of the sky as well, which that in itself isn't the issue. It's the problem that they don't always know where they're going to land. And so they don't always know the authorities, the FAA, as far as the United States is concerned, the Federal Aviation Administration, doesn't always know where they need to close airspace and when, because they don't have good information on what's going on with these things. So, end of story. Your plane could be hit by a rocket.
Well, then why don't they figure it out?
That's a great question.
You'd think that if we're going to send something up there, we're going to know where the things are going to go.
See, we're not sending it up is probably is a big issue.
Who is this they we speak of then?
Again, mostly the Chinese.
Well, then the
country of China
need to figure it out.
Yeah. I mean,
I'd hate to have to make a proclamation live on air about China, but I think they need to figure out this whole rocket debris thing.
Yeah.
Because if my plane gets hit by some of their rocket debris, I'll tell you this much, I'm not going to be very happy.
I think you're going to be thoroughly upset.
I'm going to be thoroughly upset.
And they'll be, they're going to have to pay for what they've done if they knock your plane out.
I mean, you want to talk about suing people?
Yeah.
I'm suing the whole country.
Yes.
Suing everybody.
I can understand why. Now, sometimes it's a difficult balancing act because oftentimes it is a situation where whatever the airplane authorities, they know that there's a potential for a rocket for debris to fall in a certain area that could affect certain airspace. For example, November 4th, 2022, Spain and France each closed parts of their airspace due to a Chinese rocket that was expected to re-enter the atmosphere in an uncontrolled fashion. That, though, did wind up disrupting, at least in Spain, over 300 flights. So you're causing people a big inconvenience because it's similar to the weather. It's just it's not always so known. You can't schedule flights around it. And so, again, massive inconvenience. And if you're going to start telling people, what are you supposed to, you're going to lie to people? Or are you going to tell them the truth? Your flight is delayed because it could be hit by a falling rocket. They're not going to believe you. But if they do, that's really frightening sounding.
It is very frightening sounding. And if you're in the air, it has to be such a low accuracy of it actually hitting you, right?
I mean, it's a big sky.
It's a huge sky. Small debris.
Right.
Plain, decent sized, but the actual probability has to be so low.
It's very low, in fact, and at this time, there's still not been a confirmed instance of a flight colliding or being damaged by falling rocket debris. But
knock on wood.
Yeah, that's right. It's just something that's becoming more and more possible with all these with so many uncontrolled is the issue. Uncontrolled instances of things re-entering the atmosphere. We got to be careful. Just wanted to give you one more thing to worry about.
Perfect for the next flight I take.
Yeah. And
Another thing while I'm on the plane that can freak me out.
Every flight going forward for the rest of your life, because it's just going to become more and more likely.
Yep.
It's the worst of the riot on Radio U.
I hate to break this to you, but you know the Jurassic Park movies, Jurassic World, all that?
Yes, I'm familiar.
Unrealistic. It's not what it's actually like.
Makes sense.
That could never happen in real life.
Doesn't really surprise me all that much.
And if it did, it wouldn't look like that. Check this out. According to some new research, I'm seeing here that researchers claim that T-Rexes had lips. They're claiming dinosaurs, like if you, the typical way you picture a T-Rex, because it's how Jurassic Park showed us, the teeth are just out there for the world to see. It makes them look much scarier.
Like out of the mouth, you're saying?
Yeah, because they stick out. They're so large.
Yeah.
And there's no lips to cover them up. But now researchers are saying that these big, giant, scary animals with the massive teeth, the teeth are actually covered by, lips, just like you and I would have.
That's wild. I mean, that is crazy.
Yeah.
Groundbreaking stuff there.
I'm glad that they figured that out. But it also, this is just one more thing that makes me question dinosaurs in general. We're just figuring this out now.
Well, I feel like it makes sense because I feel like the only thing we really know about dinosaurs is about their bones. Because we never really saw their skin. Same thing as we don't know what color a T-Rex was either.
Then why are we making stuff up about it?
Well, because we have to draw a picture of it.
We don't. Yeah, but we can just say we don't know.
Well, we did. Well, that's what we say. We say we don't really know.
I just don't understand. Here's why I have an issue with the dinosaurs. Why I just have to question is because dinosaurs supposedly happened millions of years ago, right?
Mm-hmm. I think it was 70 trillion or something.
I think it just keeps. It's always changing. It's always a large number, but it was at least a million years ago. They say dinosaurs roamed the earth. So we've had a million years to figure it out. And we're still going, well, actually, we just figured out they had lips. We can't make up our minds because it's just a bunch of people just making stuff up. Some say feathers. Some say no feathers. Some say lips. Some say no lips. We don't know anything. We don't know anything.
Yeah, we don't. I mean, it was so long ago that I also this is now the period where we're figuring things out.
Yeah.
Back in the 1800s, those people knew nothing.
Did they even know about dinosaurs?
They didn't know anything.
And how did that change their lives?
If they knew, it wouldn't really change them.
Exactly. So what's even the point?
Well, we'd like to know about history. You don't think history is important?
Don't you think that not this history, it's not helping us?
I think all history is important because you can learn from it.
What can we learn from dinosaurs having lips?
From having lips?
Yeah, teach me a lesson.
Well, I wouldn't say having lips, dinosaurs, but I think we can always learn lessons from dinosaurs, obviously.
You think the researchers that discovered this put it in their dating profile?
It says, I figured out the dinosaurs have lips. I would hope not.
It's probably their biggest career accomplishment.
It is.
To this point.
It probably is.
So you'd think they have to, right?
Maybe, I guess.
If they're single.
That'd be a good line.
Would anybody even believe you?
Nope.
Last thing on this, and this is the good news, is that it does open up the door for dinosaur romance movies.
Oh, because they have lips now.
Now they can kiss. Mm-hmm.
I guess the animated versions, it makes sense.
It's nice to imagine that if dinosaurs were real, at least they were able to kiss, because it would be sad if they weren't able to. How else would they show their love?
Probably licking, like a dog.
This is Radio U's worst of the riot.
I've got a new detrimental dating trend going around, according to the experts from the dating app Hinge.
Good dating app.
I'm not going to ask you. I was going to ask if you're on Hinge, but I thought that's a bit too personal. You don't have to reveal
I might be
that.
on there.
You don't have to reveal
But
it.
I might not.
You may or may not be on Hinge, and that's up to you to disclose. I'm not going to ask you. But the people at Hinge, some of their experts, have coined a new term for a dating trend that they think is causing issues. They call it fizzling.
Fizzling.
Have you ever been fizzled before?
I can't be sure if I've been fizzled.
Here's what
Sounds kind of fun, though.
It's No, I assure you it's not.
Oh, okay.
Fizzling is when a date is when somebody you're going out with incrementally puts less and less effort into the relationship until finally it reaches the point where they stop talking altogether and it's fizzled out.
Oh, I've been
completely.
fizzled.
You've been fizzled?
I've been twizzled.
Have you ever fizzled?
I don't know if I've
Have you
ever
ever been a
fizzled.
fizzler?
I would never admit to fizzling.
You wouldn't?
Nope.
I think this is, although they're calling it a new dating trend, they just given it a name. And I don't even feel like the name is that new. Like who hasn't said, yeah, we were talking, but it just kind of eventually fizzled out. Yeah. This is not.
You're right.
It's not that new, but it is detrimental. And you can see how it can be a problem because what oftentimes will happen is like, the one person that's getting fizzled is still really into things, but the person who's the fizzler just they got other options,
So what's worse, being fizzled or being ghosted?
So ghosted is just cold turkey.
Yep.
No explanation. Fizzled is, in a sense, you're being led on.
Yeah.
What would be worse?
I think it depends a little bit on like the relationship. The farther along it is, the worse a ghosting is. The earlier on it is, I think the worse a fizzle is.
If it's early on, a fizzle is worse.
Yeah, I think it's worse because they're giving you like a little bit of hope.
Yeah.
As if like this actually could be something where like if it's early on, I don't really care. So just ghost me if you don't want to talk to me, right? I don't want to waste my time.
Right.
But then the farther in you go, then like if it like fizzles, then there's more opportunity there for communication. Where if you just ghost me, then I could be more hurt by it because at that point I'm a little bit more invested.
Yeah.
I would rather you fizzle me out. That way I can clearly see that you're just not interested anymore, rather than just a ghosting where it's just like, what the heck did I just do wrong?
Yeah.
Where earlier on, it doesn't. The ghosting's fine.
I'd love to disagree with you, but I think you're right. I think ghosting. I think fizzling is a little worse because if one party knows that this is just not going to work out, and they're just they don't have it in them to actually do a full breakup, and they're also not a ghoster, which is not ideal. If they keep fizzling, it does give you false hope. That's hurtful. But ghosting when you're far along in a relationship, that's a tough one.
That's tough to rebound from.
But early on, I like the ghosting because at least it's clear. You text them a couple times and they don't get back to you. At least you know where you stand.
Boom.
You don't know why, but at least you know that you don't need to hold out on them.
Yeah, you've been cut off.
But the fizzling just keeps you in limbo.
It does. It just makes you feel like there's maybe something there and they're just not a good texter. What's the deal? You don't really get it. And then at the end of the day, they just don't think you're cute.
Yeah. I'll tell you that I'm glad I'm not dating anymore. I'm glad
you wouldn't make it 10 seconds in this dating pool.
Not now. If my wife leaves me, I am going to be in a tough spot. I really will.
You're done for.
Yeah. I won't even get to the point of getting fizzled. I wouldn't even get that chance. But I'll tell you, the reason I am glad I'm not dating, besides that I'd never make it, is because there's just so many things to navigate. There's just so many, there's so many different ways people can hurt you when you start to like them and start to trust them. And so many different ways people can we keep learning new ways that people cut out on you, sometimes slowly and surely, sometimes cold turkey, but every time it still leaves a little bit of a sting. And I'll let you know at the end of the day that when you start talking to God, he's not going to do that on you. It doesn't matter. Your friends, family, people you've gone out with, they can hurt you. They can leave you, but Jesus never will. And so when you do get hurt, you can always turn to him. If you want to know more about what that's about, check out RadioU.com/free gift and just start talking to God. You can do that from anywhere at any time, and he's not going to ghost you or fizzle you or any of that good stuff.
This is The Riot. Radio U.
Now, I love when this happens. When people text us questions at 8772-RADIO-U. We got one from Rohan. Rohan says, what is some stuff that made you cool as a kid, but now as an adult, it wouldn't make you very cool? Like if you were showing it off, flashing it in elementary school.
Good question.
You said, come to my place. We've got this at my house. But now, like if you're grown up, even out of elementary school, like if you're 15, it wouldn't be cool. The first one that comes to mind for me, trampoline.
Trampoline makes you cool.
But if I told you, hey, Isaiah, come to my place now, I've got a trampoline, just got a new trampoline.
I mean, I'd jump on it with you, but it would not be cool.
I
wouldn't tell people about that.
It's not as cool.
That would be just a me and you thing.
Yeah.
We wouldn't tell people. We wouldn't talk about that on the air.
That'd be private, the trampoline.
Yeah. Same thing with a pool, too. If you had a pool is still cool. If you have a pool now, that's still a flex.
Uh-huh.
But when you're a kid, though, that was... If you got a pool, that's premier.
The pool kids,
your house is the house.
Now, I think there's a differentiator, too. Now, if I'm an adult and I say, come over, I've got a pool, and it's in-ground and nice, that's still pretty cool.
That's cool.
If I tell you, come over to my house, and you came over, it was an above-ground pool, like it's one of those ones you just set up every summer.
It's not as cool.
You're not going to be impressed.
No.
But a little child would be.
A little kid would be like, yes, this is awesome.
Yeah. You got any more?
Yeah. What about, like, when you were a kid? What about, like, having a cool phone? You know, like a slide phone?
Yeah.
You had, like, a friend that had, like, a real cool phone, or the first friend that got an iPhone. Those kids were cool.
Yeah.
Right away. Like, I never had a phone growing up, so anybody who had a cool phone.
That's right.
I thought that was cool. I was jealous of this little slippy, slidey phones. I don't even know what they were called. I didn't have one. I wanted one. That was cool. Yeah. I think childhood, if we're talking like elementary school, then just having gum at school is cool. If you had gum, I was jealous of you. Like, that alone could make you cooler than me when I was a little kid.
I had a friend that always had Orbit. Always. Yep. He had Orbit, or he eventually converted to 5 gum. And he was cool. Like, that was a status symbol right there. Tim had a good one. Tim texted in, I don't know if you remember this, Isaiah. Silly bands.
Yeah.
You remember Silly bands?
I mean, my parents own toy stores.
I guess you're right. So
I was cool because of that.
You had the collection.
Unlimited. I had unlimited.
Yeah, unlimited Silly bands. Yeah. Now as an adult, if I came in with, look, it's a dolphin, and I can just wear it.
That would be so lame, but it'd be so funny though. Check out my new bracelet. It's actually, if I take it off here, it's a giraffe.
Yeah. You know what? It actually. I understand why kids thought that was cool.
I don't know if this was.
We thought that was cool.
I don't know if this was cool when you were, still like young, but when I was like in middle school, that's when they had like the fight and necklace things and like the balance little bracelet things.
The balance bracelets.
Oh, you never had those? There were these bracelets, these rubber band like bracelet type things you put on your wrist that were like to make you more balanced, more athletic feeling. And obviously they were dumb.
They didn't work, did they?
And they were expensive for no reason. Same thing with these dumb necklaces. But everybody wore them. And if you didn't have one, you might as well just went home.
Yeah.
You were not cool.
Tim clarified, although we brought up the silly bands, he also said, and this is if you go back a little further in time, I think, like the Live Strong bracelet.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's similar.
Oh,
that's similar to the balance ones. Yes, similar to that.
Eric said I had one of those necklaces because he played baseball.
Yes, all baseball players had them. Yeah, you did. You know what I'm talking about. All the baseball players wore them. I didn't even play baseball, and I wore them just because everybody had them.
Yeah, that was a pile.
What about like when your parents bring you back to school at like around lunchtime, and you get to walk in with like McDonald's?
Ooh,
you sit down at the lunchroom table, and you've got like some sort of like Wendy's or McDonald's or something. That made you cool as well.
See, I never got that experience as a child.
Oh yeah, because you were homeschooled.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
there's probably so many
feeling.
things you could tell me about like lunch break.
It was a special feeling
that you could experience that I could never have that.
A lot
chance.
of stuff. If you, especially, or even just the simplicity of if your parents pack you a good lunch. There's a difference between like having a school lunch.
Yeah.
That's like a normal lunch. I always got a pretty normal lunch. But then like maybe one day I get a pudding cup. People are looking. They're like,
a snack pack.
A snack pack in there. If I have like a good brand of fruit snacks or maybe a certain good kind of chips, that makes you a little bit cooler.
Your lunchroom royalty. What about chocolate milk? I feel like that'd be a status symbol.
Chocolate milk.
Chocolate milk or Lunchables.
Oh, if you had a Lunchable too, especially when you were younger. Elementary school, if you whip out a Lunchable, everyone's jealous. They thought you were cool.
Text in if you've got something that made you cool when you were a kid that now as an adult, maybe not as much. 8772 Radio U.
The Riot with Hudson and Nikki on Radio U.
Good question going on. This is courtesy of Rohan that texted in and said, what are some things that made you cool as a kid, but as an adult don't really make you seem cool all that much. We've gotten a lot of great answers, and we've gotten even more that we haven't gotten to yet. So text yours in at 8772 Radio U. But I did want to point out, Arthur said that he had a moped when he was growing up.
Any kind of scooter thing made you cool.
I know growing up in the country that I was super jealous of any kid that had a dirt bike or four-wheeler.
That was me.
Those were huge.
It was huge.
And
but
then
I lived like so far out in the country that nobody knew I had it. I had nowhere to take it. Nobody saw me riding it, which was a darn shame. That's why I was never cool, because they had no idea that I was so cool.
You didn't tell it? Like, word didn't get out
I talked about
school?
it, but like until you see it.
Yeah, nobody believed you.
They didn't believe.
Yeah.
I told them I was riding. They didn't believe it.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the worst was I had one friend. He had a four-wheeler, went to his birthday party, and then he was taking each and every girl for a ride on the four-wheeler. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, and you're just hanging out by the food. Like you're just hanging out there. You're not allowed to drive the thing.
It's not just that he was taking all the girls.
What are you gonna do? Hop on the back and hold on to him? Like you're gonna be that guy?
I want to ride too, but I'm not gonna step on your toes here. But that was a tough one.
You just stay on the ground.
What about drinking a lot of Mountain Dew?
That was a cool thing.
Yeah.
Or just having a lot of pop at your house. If you had a house with a lot of snacks, made you cooler.
Yeah, that's for sure. A good text in from, is it Andrew, who said, having the biggest super soaker. Super soakers were huge.
If you went to like the summer pool party, and you got to show up with your squirt gun, of course.
Yeah.
If you don't have a good one, you look lame.
Yeah, you do. And then that got progressively, as I grew up, you graduated. First, like, super soakers were cool. Then Nerf guns were cool. Then airsoft and paintball was cool. Yep. And every single step of the way, I was jealous of the kids that had better guns.
I never did. I never had
the best one.
Me either.
But I did have a friend that had a hookup. So
there you go.
At least I could borrow his second best gun. And then Arrow said when he was growing up, that being the best at playing, being the best at Halo in your friend group. Which to me, like, even just,
that's cool to your friends.
Yeah. To me, for a while, I didn't have any video games, or I didn't have the new video games.
If you had new video games, that was cool.
So I feel like now every kid growing up, like, they don't know what it was like. They all have Xboxes and Switches and whatever. And they can just play games on their phone too. When I was growing up, not everybody had.
The first time like somebody had like a Wii or something, when like that came out, that was wild. The first time like the PlayStation 4 came out, that was wild. I like the one that Jamie texted in. She said, when you had money for the book fair.
Ooh.
When you got to go to the book fair and you had a couple dollars that you were spending and you could pick out whatever you want. You get some erasers in your hand. That's a good one as well.
Yeah, that's another homeschooler one that I don't.
Oh, the book fair was cool.
Well, everybody had money for the book fair.
The other one too, this is one that I thought of.
Yeah.
Is like when you went to school and you had like the 100 crayon box. You didn't have like just the 8-piece. If you had that 100 box that had like a million different colors in it, that made you cool for whatever reason. You would never use all those colors, but if you had that, like the variety of all that, all the different choices, then you were cool.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. You could just, any color you needed. Yeah, you had it.
That was a good one. And then my last one was, if you got to go to the mall, no parents.
Oh.
You're there with your friends.
Yeah.
That made you cool.
That's when you were cool.
If you were hanging out at the mall, walking around with your buddies, that made you cool.
The last one I thought of was, and this is I was a little grown up by this time, but hoverboards, when that was out, I can only imagine the word around school would be like, do you see, like, we got to go to Jimmy's.
He's got a hoverboard.
His parents got him a hoverboard.
Yeah, I bet for the kids that like they were like in like 4th or 5th grade when hoverboards came out, I bet they were just begging their parents for that. They had to be.
Jamie also texted in when you could dye your hair.
Dyed
That's
hair.
true. I remember kids that had like.
Yep.
I'm sure it's bigger for girls, but even for guys that like they do their hair a crazy color.
Oh, if you got a mohawk.
The mohawk. When you put gel in your hair.
If you got a mohawk, that just meant that you were edgy and cool, and your parents just allowed you to do whatever you wanted.
Aaron, man, people are just coming in hot today. Aaron says when you had the pen one pen that could write in different colors.
Yep. What are those called? I remember the commercials for them. You could like twist them, and then sometimes it was like the markers that you could do 2 colors at once. You might have red and green in the same one. Then you flip over to green. That was cool too, Aaron.
This
You're
also
right.
jogged my memory, and this is the last one because we've talked for so long about how, being cool as a kid, but gel pens.
Gel pens, yep.
Gel pens were big.
If you had anything cool at school that was like some sort of accessory that made you cool.
It definitely did. Well, this is a good conversation. 8772 Radio U if you've got any more, and thanks to
I was not cool.
No.
I just, after reading all these, I was not cool at all. This is crazy.
Yeah, that's and you still aren't. It's
The Riot Radio U.
Now, have you seen this trend going around on TikTok, Isaiah? The hair theory.
I have seen this trend.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, if for the uninitiated, if you haven't stumbled upon this on TikTok, the hair theory is primarily among women the idea that changing your hair completely changes who you are. It changes how people see you. Just a simple thing of parting it differently, curly versus straight, having it up versus down, all this stuff. Just small, really, in the scheme of things, they're small things.
Small little things, but I've talked about this before. Like in my previous months before this hair theory thing came, I said depending on what your hair is like, people are going to treat you differently because of it.
You've
That's
said
what this
that?
is. I've said that. I've said it.
So you developed the hair
You could
theory.
say that I came up with it.
I feel like hairdressers probably.
Probably.
Like salon people probably have been saying this for a long time.
For years.
And I don't know if we all bought in, but now.
Oh, I'm bought in. I believe in this 100%.
You think it's true? Wait, you think people will treat you differently, though?
I think people will treat you differently depending on what your hair is like.
Well,
or how you do your hair. If you dye your hair, how you get your hair cut, how you're wearing it. Depending on how you wear your hair, people will look and think of you differently.
Give me an example.
I'll give you one of you, right?
Okay.
So people look at you, and you've got that long flow going, right?
Yeah.
And
got luscious locks.
And they look at you, and the first thing they think, country. They do. The first thing they think is country.
That the hair,
but
though?
if you had a fade like mine, and you wore your hair just like mine, nobody would think you're country. I think the frequency of you getting country comments would go down drastically.
But
if you had a fade like mine.
You think that's just primarily because of my hair and not the rest of my look?
I think there's the rest of your look has to do with it too. But I think that if you had a fade like I do, then you would get a lot less country comments. You might still get some, but I think the frequency would be lower.
I'll have to think about that.
I think it's for sure accurate.
I mean, but maybe I like the country comments.
You know what? And that's good. I'm just saying. I think that's a part of your look. Your hair goes into it.
I don't want to make this all about me.
Let's not talk about you anymore.
But
That's
here
enough about you. Oh, here we go.
Here I go. I think that looking country, but not really truly being country, allows me to have my foot in both camps.
Mm-hmm.
I can go into and hang out with some rednecks and at least for some time have a little bit of respect among them. Until they realize that I don't fit in, and vice versa. I can be, but I guess it does make it harder for me to walk into more prestigious, upscale places where I belong and where I could discuss Oscar movies and stuff like that with like-minded people. But they see me as a country bumpkin, and so it makes it more difficult for me to enter in.
And we've talked about before how, based off looking at me, no one's gonna say that I'm country.
No.
Nobody would.
Even if they see you pulling up in your truck.
Even if I put up in my truck, and if I think this is also not just a hair thing, but my hair goes into that as well, because I always have my hair kind of faded up with a pretty typical hairstyle, definitely not a country haircut whatsoever. I always look pretty put together, so I don't ever look country, I would say, but I would say that I have some country tendencies.
Yeah.
But here's another thing,
too. But if you had just a mustache and longer hair,
then I might look country.
If you started to look a little more like Joe Dirt
mm-hmm.
with just a simple change. You didn't even have to change your wardrobe. You just change your hair and your facial hair.
It would make a
counts.
difference.
Yeah.
And I think for girls, I think it's the most prevalent in women, especially girls who dye their hair. I think girls who dye their hair get treated differently based on what color they dye their hair.
You think so?
I'm very, very believe that.
So blondes get treated differently than brunettes, even if they, other than that, they look exactly the same.
I wouldn't say that it's that as much, but I think that if you dye your hair like a color, other than blonde, red, or brunette, if you're doing a color,
if you go blue.
If you did blue or green, I think people are going to see you as maybe a little bit edgier, thinking of you and looking at you a little bit differently. I think
either edgy or artsy.
Yes, edgy or artsy. I think that if you have pink hair, I might look at you and think right away that you might be able to draw.
So you buy in the hair theory. You fully subscribe.
I fully believe it. I think it's 100% accurate.
I don't know. I don't know if I buy it fully based. I don't know if I buy it fully based off of the TikTok examples because it'll just be like a gal and she shows it from.
She's like, people like me better like this.
But other than that, she looks exactly the same. To me, it doesn't change my opinion that much. But I see what you're saying though. You're winning me over a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for watching the worst of the riot. Since you made it this far, you might as well like, subscribe, and check out riot.radiou.com for even more riot.